안녕하십니까? 제17회 제주 포럼에 참석해 주신 여러분 반갑습니다. 지금부터 아랍대사 라운드 테이블 향후 10년을 향한 한국과 아랍 간의 전략적 협력 세션을 시작하겠습니다. 본 행사는 동시 통역이 제공되며 통역을 원하시는 분들께서는 자리에 놓여 있는 수신기를 착용하시기 바랍니다. 한국어 채널은 1번, 영어는 2번입니다. 감사합니다. 그럼 이번 세션의 진행을 맡아주실 좌장님을 소개해드리겠습니다. 이번 세션의 좌장을 맡아주신 이희수 한양대학교 교수님입니다. 교수님께서는 한국외대를 졸업하고 이스탄불 국립대학에서 역사학 박사를 취득한 중동 이슬람 문화 국내 최고 권위자이십니다. 현재 한양대 문화인류학과 명예교수, 성공회대 이슬람문화연구소 소장, 계명대 특임교수로 활동하고 계십니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 17th Jeju Forum. Thank you for joining us today for Arab Ambassadors Roundtable, Strategic Cooperation for the Next Decade Between Korea and Arab. Simultaneous interpretation is available for this session. For service in Korean, set your device on channel 1. For English, select channel 2. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to Professor Lee Hee-soo of Hanyang University, who will moderate this session. Everyone, please welcome Professor Lee.
여러분 반갑습니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Under the theme of strategic cooperation for the next decade between Korea and Arab, I'm going to moderate the session. It is my great honor. I'm Professor Hee-soo Lee of Hanyang University. I'm so delighted to see you all. Before we start the session, we are going to start having some opening ceremonies. First, Secretary General Young-sam Ma of Korea Arab Society will deliver his opening remarks. Please come forward.
샤픽 하샤디 주한 아랍 외교
Distinguished the ambassadors and professors, distinguished Ambassador of UAE, Abdullah Saif al-Nouamimi, the world has been changing in terms of geopolitics, and it is such a timely occasion to talk about how to improve the relation between Korea and Arab. And I'd like to express my gratitude for your kind attendance. Because of the COVID-19, still we are having many difficulties. Nonetheless, all the presenters, panelist members, and dear participants on and offline, thank you so much for your kind participation.
that as the international situation changes and economic inflation swept the world, there grew higher global instability. Against this background, the Arab ambassadors around the table is arranged to discuss the Arab world's foreign policy and its great visions to prepare for the future. In addition, this can be an opportunity to discuss the direction of a future-oriented cooperation between Korea and the Arab world for the next 10 years. In particular, in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and the threatening crisis of climate changes, I hope that the Arab and Korea will also find a new direction from existing development methods. I wish that this roundtable will serve as an opportunity to open up the future of shared prosperity. 끝으로 본 라운드테이블
Last but not least, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Arab delegates for making it possible. Also, my special thanks goes to the Jeju Peace Institute for co-organizing the event. I hope that today's forum can be a chance for us to improve the relationship between the two sides further. Thank you so much.
마영삼 총
Thank you very much, Secretary General Ma, for your opening remarks. And next, Director General Jang Hyun Kim of African and Middle Eastern Affairs of Ministry of Foreign Affairs sent us a message on video. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Director General Jang Hyun Kim of African and Middle Eastern Affairs of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea. It is a great pleasure to meet all of you, though it's via screen. Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to the ROK, as well as Dean of the Arab Diplomatic Corps is Seoul, Shafiq Rashadi, Secretary General Ma Yong-sam of Korea Asap Society, Ambassador Hong Yong-gi for Polar Affairs of MOFA, as well as former Korean Ambassador to Kuwait, and Professor Hee-Soo Lee of Hanyang University, who is going to moderate the session. And all the participants at home and abroad, welcome all of you to Arab Ambassadors Roundtable of Jeju Forum. Today's Arab Ambassadors Roundtable will be a venue to discuss changes in the Middle East in the midst of tumultuous international political landscape, while talking about how to achieve reciprocal cooperation between Korea and Arab. Intensified strategic competition between the US and China, prolonged Ukraine war, and rapid reshaping of global supply chain induced by them show how the international diplomacy and security landscape become rigid. As such, the Middle East affairs are becoming more complex. Changes in the Middle East affect the international politics and economies, as well as are directly related to peace and security of the international society and the Korean Peninsula. The newly established Korean government aims to contribute to freedom, peace, and prosperity as a global pivotal country, which is our national agenda. In the journey toward becoming a global pivotal state, cooperation with Arab is essential. So far, the Middle East has been our largest energy import source as well as our biggest construction customer region, thus making huge contributions to our economic development. And we have worked with Iraq, Jordan, Palestine for development cooperation, provided humanitarian support to Syria, Yemen, and participated in UN peacekeeping activities with Dongmyeong unit in Lebanon, thus contributing to regional peace and stability in Arab. The new Korean government will remain committed to solidifying cooperation with Arab countries while facilitating high-level exchanges, securing energy supply chain, and upgrading and expanding cooperation in the area of hydrogen, health, AI, and other future-oriented industries. For cooperation between Korea and Arab to take one step forward and strategically develop further, the two sides should be committed and working together. In that regard, today's roundtable, I hope, could be a meaningful milestone for future cooperation of the two. I hope Korea and Arab could share each other's views and understandings, and ideas for strategic cooperation between the two could be proposed and exchanged. Your discussion, insights, and suggestions will be a great ingredient for a further development of our Middle East policy. In closing, I'd like to thank Korea Arab Society and Jeju Peace Institute for organizing this Arab Ambassadors Roundtable. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Director General Jang Hyun Kim, for your congratulatory remarks. And last but not least, we have CEO Young-Chul Yang of JDC, which is a co-host of this session. He sent us a welcoming message on video. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm CEO Yang Young-Chul of Jeju Free International City Development Center, or JDC. First off, I'd like to apologize for not being able to be on site and sending this video message. Welcome all of you to Arab Ambassadors Roundtable. Autumn is approaching to Jeju, which makes the island much more colorful. In that sense, I'm so delighted to meet all of you in autumn in Jeju. I'd like to thank Morocco Ambassador and Dean of the Arab Diplomatic Corps Shafiq Rashadi, Egyptian Ambassador Khalid Abdullah Human, UAE Ambassador Abdullah Al Nuaimi, former Ambassador Yong Hong to Kuwait, and Dominican Republic Ambassador Federico Alberto Cuello Camilo, and Professor Hee-Soo Lee, who is the moderator for your upcoming presentation and presence. Today's session is organized to talk about strategic cooperation between Korea and Arab for the next decade. About 1400 years ago, the Shilla dynasty exchanged its silks with Arab spices, which means that we have had the history of exchange for years. Thus, we can say our connection is strong and deep-rooted. Recently, I had an opportunity to learn Arab's history and issues regarding politics, culture, and industries of the Arab world that have been less accessible so far. And I found out that Jeju and the Middle East have many commonalities, which made me think about an expanded cooperation between the two. The theme of this roundtable is strategic cooperation for the next decade between Korea and Arab, as well as cooperation directions between Korea and Arab and Middle East countries, changes in Middle East countries of diplomatic policies. I believe this session will be very meaningful to understand the current status and plan our future. I hope today's discussion will lead to constructive proposals, thus contributing to strengthening Korea-Arab partnership. JDC is a national corporation established by the central government, aiming to make Jeju an international free city. JDC will play a pivotal role in exchanges between youth, education, and further promoting trade so that Jeju can be a globally renowned place where people around the world visit and a hub for the exchange between Korea and Arab. Once again, I'd like to sincerely thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Thank you very much.
네, 양영철 이사장.
Thank you, Chairman Yang, for your congratulatory remark. Let us begin the main part of the session to discuss about the strategic cooperation for the next decade between Korea and Arab. Recently, the rivalry between China and the U.S. and the U.S. leave of the Arab and leave from the Afghanistan, expansion of the Russia's presence, the war in Ukraine, Iran nuclear negotiation, outlooks, uncertainty, and the world economy after the COVID-19 outbreak, energy prices insecurity. These are some of the examples of the global issues that struck us at once. In this time of difficult challenges, we need to think about the traditional relations with our countries because changes have been witnessed. So we invited the people with experiences from Korea and from the three major countries in the Arab region to talk about the policy direction and also the strategic cooperation for the next 10 years. Before we begin the presentation, please allow me to introduce the participant briefly. First presenter is the Mr. Shafiq Rashadi, ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco to the ROK. The second presenter is Ambassador Abdullah Jaif Al Nouaimi of UAE to the ROK. The third presenter is Ambassador Khaled Abdelrahman of Arab Republic of Egypt to the ROK. The fourth presenter is Ambassador Hong Young-gi, the former ambassador to Kuwait and the current ambassador for Polar Affairs of MOFA. Last but not least, we have very special discussant, Ambassador Federico Alberto Cuello Camilo of the Dominican Republic to the ROK. He is from Lebanon and also was a former ambassador to Qatar, so he has a special attachment to the Arab region and a friend of Korea. And actually, We were not able to invite more guests because the time is limited, but we invited the ambassador of the major Arab countries to Korea. Mr. Antoine Lazan, the ambassador of Lebanon to Korea. Mr. Jakared Hamidi Arsad, the ambassador of Oman to the RK. Sami Al-Sadan, ambassador of Saudi Arabia to RK. Khalid Ibrahim Al-Haman, ambassador of Qatar to the RK. Hamad Ben Sabri, ambassador of Algeria to the RK. Asal Atal, ambassador of Jordan to the RK. Dea Faran Al-Asidi, ambassador of Kuwait to the RK. Daya Abdullah Haman Tabit, ambassador of Iraq to the RK. Elham Kamel Ahmed, ambassador of Sudan to the RK. Actually, it is such a rare chance to invite all the Arab ambassadors to one setting, so this is such a meaningful occasion. I feel very much delighted to have this kind of opportunity. So, the first presenter is, like I said, His Excellency Ambassador Shafiq Rashidi of the Kingdom of Morocco. He's going to talk about the concept of peace in his presentation. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, Secretary General, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished attendees, may peace and the mercy of God be upon you all. It is a great honor and pleasure for me, as ambassador of His Majesty the King of Morocco. I'm speaking here as the Moroccan ambassador, not as a dean of the Arab ambassadors. To be here among you at the Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity to talk about the concept of peace. I would like to see this occasion to thank the Korea Arab Society and the Jeju Peace Institute for inviting me. Billions of people across the world hope and pray for peace. It's a dream of that human from every language, background, creed, and experience all share. I look forward to the presentation here of my colleagues, ambassadors in this table, but before that, let me start with a simple question. Why peace is more important now than ever? I will propose that peace is not only a state of quiet or avoiding conflict, but it is an active process for establishing cooperation between countries. Each nation represented here has experiences that teach us the essentiality of peace. Our host, Korea, has had its share of difficulties, including the yoke of colonization, the civil war, and the precarious balancing of rebuilding. However, this nation has demonstrated on the international stage the daily hard work that is required to ensure the dream of peace. In fact, Moroccan soldiers, as a part of the French UN battalion, arrived in the 1950s to aid the Republic of Korea in the fight to protect our shared democratic ideals, and that made our two people blood brothers. In the ensuing 70 years, we have continued to build our relationship based on peace and insisting on its importance in paving the way for all other form of progress. However, in other parts of the world, war and dispute continue to adversely impact us. This dispute drive a wedge between different countries, disconnect and isolated population, and undermine cooperation. In the face of such division, we know that an equally perfect solution must be sought. And of course, we also know that peace is the only answer and the mandatory first step to achieving coexistence and harmony that will assure growth and prosperity. Excellencies, distinguished attendees, today we have gathered to discuss and collaborate on different journeys our nation have taken to resolve conflict and more toward prosperity. Toward challenges, past and present, the Kingdom of Morocco has learned that peace is a verb, not a noun. In the spirit of telling the stories of both our struggle and success, I will share some important steps my country has made on its path toward peace. The first silent event in living memory, the Green March, celebrates this year its 47th anniversary. In 1975, His Majesty late King Hassan II called upon the citizen, and 350,000 unarmed people answered the call and marched into the Sahara to peacefully assert the sovereignty of the country. In addition, Morocco's initiative for an autonomy plan 2007 for its Sahara region has also provided to be a credible and serious basis for peace. The region is coming, as you can see in this photo, is becoming an economic hub, a leading center of cooperation, and a geostrategic space dedicated to stability and shared prosperity. Like those marshals, the Kingdom of Morocco works to work by being a land where different cultures and religions coexist, as evidenced by the special relationship between His Majesty the King of Morocco, the commander of the faithful, and the popes. Most recently, in 2019, the country hosted Pope Francis, who commended the monarch and the country for working together toward peace and combating extremism, violence, and terrorism. Morocco has become a bridge between other countries and groups who long for peace, including the Middle East and the Maghreb. Furthermore, my country has played an active relationship role in Al-Quds Committee since its founding. In the recent year, in a step toward regional peace, my country has normalized diplomatic relations with Israel. Further, Morocco has led international effort to establish security and stability in its broaderly Maghreb country, Libya. The United Nations welcomes its constructive role and supports its effort to achieve a peaceful resolution to conflict. On a global scale, Morocco serves international peace and security through the long-term contribution to UN peacekeeping operation. Last year, my country inaugurated in Rabat the Office for Counterterrorism and Training in Africa, a branch of the UN counterterrorism program serving as a regional training hub. As of May 2022, more than 1,700 Moroccan soldiers contributed to peace under the banner of the United Nations and promote the values of solidarity, dignity, and humanitarian assistance. Excellencies, distinguished guests, the dream of peace unified people from all corners of the globe. Indeed, each country represented here understands through hard-won historical lesson that division, silence, and inaction cannot create peace nor serve anyone. We can combine our experiences in mediation and equitable resolution to offer proactive and creative solutions to threats we face and the potential we must grasp. At every moment, we must remember that peace is not a resting state, unknown, but an active verb that requires, in the word of His Majesty, my King, our mobilization, discipline, and pursuit of what is just. May peace be upon you all. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 모로코.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your presentation. It was heart-touching and passionate presentation on peace. Especially, I was born after the Korean War, and Morocco troops with the French armies went to Korea to help Korea, and I didn't realize it. So taking this opportunity, I express my heartfelt gratitude for your support. As a researcher on Arab region, religious dialogue and Palestine issues has been discussed in a very neutral manner in Morocco, and also they played a role as a facilitator and coordinator in every issues. Abraham Code was made to enter into the new era, and the foundation was very much made by Morocco, I believe. So like you just said, the passion and calls for peace are now bear fruition in the region, and our call for peace on the Korean Peninsula need to learn a lesson from the case of Morocco. I believe it should be the catalyst for the Korea as well. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I'd like to give the floor to the second presenter, Ambassador Abdulaziz Al Nouamimi of UAE to the Korea. He's going to talk about the strategic cooperation for the next decade between Korea and Arab as well. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
안녕하세요.
Hello, everyone.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, First, I would like to thank Jeju Peace Institute and Korea Arab Society for giving us the opportunity to be part of this roundtable. Today, I'm going to talk about especially about the relation between UAE and Korea as a case for cooperation between Korea and Arab country. To go to the history, the diplomatic relation between Korea and UAE started in 1980 when the Korean embassy opened in Abu Dhabi. And in 1987, UAE opened the embassy in Seoul. And this relation been progressing well. A joint committee being formed 2007. In 2009, the two countries decided to make this relation called strategic partnership. In 2018, the relation was upgraded to be a special strategic partnership. And I think UAE is the only country in the Middle East have this kind of relation as a special strategic partnership. If we see in this slide, there is many cooperation in a different field between United Arab Emirates and Republic of Korea, especially in the field of the renewable energy, infrastructure, and health and medicine, and also future-oriented technology and innovation. And really, we're looking forward also to expand this field and more projects in the future. There is many committee being formed between the two countries, and this shows how the ties and the relation really after we decide to upgrade the relation and to see many committee and to coordinate. For example, we have the special strategic dialogue. This is at the foreign minister level from both countries, and also we have the annual defense minister for meeting, which is at the defense minister level. And also we have the 2+2 at the foreign and defense vice minister level. And also we have the high-level consultation on a nuclear cooperation. This is at the energy minister level. And also we have other committee like the joint committee for economics meeting. And also we have the joint consular committee meeting. If we see, as I said at the beginning, many cooperation, and as we can see in this picture here, Baraka project. Baraka project was signed between KIPCO and UAE in 2009 for power unit, nuclear peaceful use for power. 2 of them already in operation. At that time, to be honest, Korea, when they bid, it was the first project for Korea to be bid outside Korea. So, because we believe in of course, this was transparency process for bidding, but we believe in Korean technology. So, Korean company was selected. And to be honest with you, this is the base where our relations start getting stronger and stronger and open the door for other sector as well. If we see in the other slide here, also, in the other picture, this is in the oil field, especially, Korea National Oil Company win one of the field which is called Haliba, and this is the first oil field protection by Korean company, and the production started in 2019. The first oil shipment was shipped to Korea. This is another cooperation, and also in the oil, many company now coming to UAE. So here we're going to see the opportunity or the investment facility that provided for international investor in general, and also to the Korean also. UAE is a regional hub in the Middle East and play a critical role as a gateway to connecting the major economic in the world. Over 100 avoidance of double taxation agreement and 67 bilateral investment treaties. Also, we are a key priority sector in the UAE for us for research and development. For example, food and agriculture, healthcare, IT, and artificial intelligence, and pharmaceutical and manufacturing. This is the sector that UAE really focuses on. If we see the relation between UAE as a trade, first quarter of 2022, it was $1.3 billion, growth of about 19% over first quarter 2021. And also we have last year, the total trade between UAE and Korea, it was $11.2 million. So this is another slide that shows that the attraction of the UAE to attract foreign direct investment, tax exemption, and also stable exchange rate, 100% company ownership, where all the foreigners, they can have 100% ownership in the company, more than 40 free zone, no require for national agent for a foreign company when they open their business in UAE. And also there is, we call it golden visa for investor for certain sector, which is this to facilitate the movement of the businessmen who have business in UAE. The total direct investment of UAE in Korea, $673 million, and the total investment of Korea in UAE about $200 billion. Sorry, this is the first one, $837 million. So if we see in this slide, if anyone wants to know more about investment and investment opportunity in the UAE, we can see here this website being created to give all the people who is interested to look in the sector and the opportunity for investment in the UAE is investemirate.ae. So anybody really encourage anyone who have the interest, they can have more details in this website specifically about the sector and opportunity. I will end my slide. I think we have only 7 minutes, so if I think later maybe I can answer the question if there is any question or clarification. Thank you very much for your listening. 감사합니다.
Thank you very much.
님 짧은
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for sharing exchanges between Arab and Korea. Your presentation was quite impressive. And I personally visited Baraka nuclear power plants, and I gave lecture 2 times. And I saw and met many Korean people. And those workers, Korean workers, said they wanted to know more about the Arab society and the culture in Arab. So between UAE and Korea, we established a special partnership. And going forward, we'll make sure to develop our relationship going forward and further. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. And third, Ambassador Khaled Abdelrahman of Egypt to the ROK. We are going to listen to his presentation under the theme of emerging changes in the Middle East, diplomatic lines.
Distinguished Arab ambassadors and ambassadors from other countries who are with us in this discussion about the Arab world and the future of Korean-Arab relations. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. I've only been here 8 months in the Republic of Korea. It's my honor to represent my country here. In the past 8 months, we've seen a lot of developments in the bilateral relations, but I have been asked to talk about, I think, a very difficult title and subject, the emerging changes in the Middle East and diplomatic lines and relations in the Middle East. Definitely, the Middle East is facing a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities. In the beginning, I would like to thank Secretary General of the Korea Arab Society, Ambassador Ma, thank you very much for this opportunity and for the Jeju Forum for hosting us. I will be talking about 3 main titles: the external challenges and the internal challenges in the Middle East, and the new opportunities and new diplomatic efforts in facing these challenges. Definitely, all our countries are looking at new opportunities for cooperation with the Republic of Korea in the coming decade, and we are working in partnership with the Republic of Korea to achieve these goals. As Ambassador of Egypt, I will not be speaking on behalf of any country in the Middle East, but I will just talking in broad sense. The Middle East is definitely facing an ever-challenging security and political landscape that is in an evolving status. Of course, the security and the economic ties between the countries in the Middle East is in an evolving phase. On top of these challenges, we can all agree that the COVID-19 has been a challenge to the whole world, but definitely to the countries in the Middle East, and also the Ukraine crisis. And this has led to a sharp increase in energy and commodity prices in the Middle East also, not just in Korea and other countries, and all over the world. In addition, several countries in the Middle East face a number of threats arising from the spread of some terrorist non-state actor groups, and this needs cooperation, this needs international cooperation. And Egypt has been calling for this for a number of decades, actually, not just recently, that to face these terrorist threats, we need international cooperation. And I think Korea could be a very viable partner in this, in particularly with the technological advances that Korea has to stop these threats to security and peace in the Middle East. Those groups, they don't have respect to the state and the sovereignty of the state, and hence we all agree that these groups should be stopped, and they also threaten the social fabrics, and this is something that I think no country in the world will not agree to. The Middle Eastern countries also face issues of climate change, and as you all know that Egypt will be hosting in November this year in Sharm el-Sheikh the COP27, and I ask the Korean government and the Korean companies to actively participate in the COP27, because these challenges are not only for Middle Eastern countries, but it's for the world. The climate change and the subsequent challenges arising from this cause a lot of stress on the use and the adaptability of natural resources, particularly water. I think water is a big issue for Egypt in particularly, as we are totally dependent on the River Nile, and we are facing some challenges in this by some neighboring countries, and particularly the deforestation in the Middle East is another issue where the Korean technology and the Korean companies can definitely work together in partnership with Middle Eastern companies, and also to fight the drought which is facing some of our countries, because our countries don't have similar climate like here where you have a lot of rain. In the next slide, I would like also to talk about the internal challenges. The Middle Eastern countries are also facing pressures arising from geopolitical issues, such as what my colleague, former speakers spoke about, the rivalry between the great powers and the competition over natural resources like natural gas, petroleum resources, and so on. Moreover, there are some countries in the Middle East facing an internal strife, and some of these countries are facing challenges in conflict management and peace resolution, and here where the international community should collaborate, and in particularly I ask Korea with its experience in this to work together with the countries of the Middle East to solve these issues. These countries stress the necessity of their continuous evolution. There is an evolution process in the Middle East in a number of our countries. We are seeking development, we are seeking to coordinate policies in the Middle East, and we are very much stressing on development projects. Development projects are a very good vehicle to overcome the situation which we are facing and to enhance joint investment projects. These are all opportunities. Here are the opportunities for the Korean companies and for the Korean government to share with us in building the infrastructure and the human development projects which our countries are pursuing vigorously. The next slide is talking about the Middle East facing a huge challenge in some of the countries, which Egypt is one of them, is the growth of population. The growth of population is another challenge where we need to face and also to eradicate poverty and to really focus on sustainable development. These are all challenges where also Korea has some expertise, and we can work together in partnership with the Korean government and NGOs and organizations like COICA and other organizations. Moreover, the Middle East countries are facing many projects and many challenges, like the adoption of sustainable and environment-friendly techniques. And I think the COP27 will be a very good opportunity for us as Middle Eastern countries to present our projects to the Korean companies to look at these challenges. I know there is a time constraint. I'll be finishing up in a moment, but taking into consideration all the aforementioned factors, the Middle Eastern diplomatic relations are in an emerging and unprecedented manner, and this is to face the challenges. The Middle Eastern countries are really collaborating together. In the past few years, we have witnessed the strengthening of the pan-Arab ties through the Arab League. The Arab League is the umbrella for all the Arab countries in the Middle East, and we coordinate our policies, we coordinate our future together in order to serve the interests of the countries of the Arab League. And also the Gulf Cooperation Council, they have been at the forefront of these emerging shifts. They have been coordinating their policies, and I must say that there is an unprecedented security intelligence cooperation among Middle Eastern states, especially to face the threat of terrorism and insecurity in some of our countries. At the same time, we see a number of Arab countries in the Middle East, as my colleague, His Excellency Ambassador of the Kingdom of Morocco has mentioned, and the relations with Israel, they are taking place and paving forward for some cooperation in matters of counterterrorism, development and technology, and addressing a number of other issues. To close my remarks, I would like to say that cooperation over natural gas extraction, transportation, as well as regional electricity grids has seen a lot of developments. And these are all opportunities for Korean companies to work with us and to develop our infrastructure. A number of countries in the Middle East are vigorously pursuing the development of infrastructure. And to be more specific, I would like to show you here some pictures about what's happening in Egypt. We are currently building the new administration capital. As you can see here, this is going to be the tallest building in Africa, in the new administration capital. This is the parliament building. This is the new republic, which my president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, has been pursuing and building on a daily basis. These are the new government buildings in the new administration capital. Again, this is another opportunity for Korean companies to engage, and I'm sure there are numerous projects all over the Middle East, not just in Egypt. The Middle East is really an opportunity for Korean companies. We are partners for development, for building, for prosperity for the future. Diplomatic ties. I've here taken some random pictures of my president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, meeting a number of leaders of the Arab world. Please excuse me if I didn't put all the pictures, because it will take more than 7 minutes to go through this. But this shows the diplomatic relations, the personal relations among the leaders of the Middle East. The leaders of the Middle East, they are meeting, they are on phone calls, they are constantly coordinating policies. And these visits were to the new Al Alamein. Al Alamein has seen a historic battle site in World War II, and now this is the new Al Alamein city. being built with universities, hospitals, residential areas, and touristic areas. Definitely, the issues in the Middle East and at the forefront, the Palestinian issue, needs to be solved. This is one of the issues which has been a cornerstone in Egypt's foreign policy. And you can see here, this is a very recent visit by the president of Palestinian state, Mahmoud Abbas, and consulting with the president. The other one was, I think, with the foreign minister of Algeria. So Egypt is really on hourly basis following up with developments, with political developments, with economic improvement of the region, and it is in our interest to really cooperate with the Korean partners to build a future that will be a win-win situation. I thank you all for listening. I hope I was able to give a brief explanation and outlook of where the Middle East is heading. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your presentation. I was able to understand the future blueprint of Egypt. I have a very high anticipation. You identify multiple issues that we need to resolve and the challenges we will face, and the companies need to involve in the resolution of such issues, he said. Thank you so much for your good presentation. Next, I'd like to give the floor to the fourth presenter, Ambassador Hong Young-gi, for Polar Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's going to talk about the decade-long future outlook between Arab world and Korea in a comprehensive manner. The floor is yours. Thank you so much for the introduction. We are behind the schedule, so let me be very quick. From 2008 up until 2010, for 3 years, we experienced multiple changes. We sensed multiple changes. Traditional relations of the Arab region changed in terms of economy. Outwin the Arab region to improve the economic relations between the two sides. And when I first went there, I noticed that there were 20,000 or over Chinese population in Kuwait. And back then, I met a Japanese ambassador to Kuwait, and he made a joke. During the 1980s, the number of the Japanese population in Kuwait was around 20,000, and we have only 200, and all those numbers are replaced with Koreans. And there are 20,000 Chinese people, said the Japanese ambassador to Kuwait. So I was able to understand the changes of the overseas population in Kuwait. So we had multiple discussion, and I also felt that geographic changes were there as well. During those days, the U.S. kind of signaled that it will leave the Arab region, and Jane, the biggest Kuwait telecommunication service provider, who has coverage across the Arab region, said that they use the Huawei device. So I was able to sense kind of changes taking place in the Arab region back then. And I felt something back then, so let me share some. And also, I'd like to summarize the relations between Korea and Arab world as well. In 1970s, the relation between the two sides, the construction and energy were the two keywords because we are the major importer, and we have many Korean construction companies who are doing a lot of businesses in Arab world. For example, in case of Kuwait, they invested more than 4.8 billion for the construction to the Korean companies, but now we are seeing some changes. Still, in Saudi Arabia or if you see the portion of the export, the Kuwait is around 30%, and recently the oil import from U.S. soared up to 13.33% partially because of the shale revolution. So we imported much from the U.S. So this transition happens quite rapidly from 2021, and this trend will kind of persist for a while. At the same time, we are exporting cars and electronic devices to Arab countries, but now we are fiercely competing with Chinese products. Also, more than ever, the share of Korean-made electronic devices are getting smaller and smaller. Likewise, for construction field, in Arab region, we are competing with China and Turkey and local companies as well. Of course, there are major projects going on in the Arab region by Korean companies, but more and more we will not be able to win as much as we did in the past. Nonetheless, cooperation between the two sides are not that dark or diminished, I believe. Both sides are trying to identify new areas of cooperation actively. Arab partners are trying to diversify their economic structures, and we will face the post-oil era, which means that they need to revamp or restructure their economies. Without exemption, Arab countries are actively producing IT talents, investing a lot in IT infrastructure, while fighting climate change actively. Also, as it was said by the UAE ambassador, including smart farming, they are investing heavily in the revolution of agricultural industry. Also, almost all our countries are trying to revolutionize their agricultural industries. At the same time, we are seeing the instability of the food supply system around the world. So the food supply security are being kind of implemented, tackled in many countries. Korea, from the previous administration up until the current Yoon administration, are trying to expand the horizon of the diplomacy. In the past, we only focus on Northeast Asia or allied countries, but now we are expanding this kind of diplomacy under the banner of pivotal states or the northern policies. Also, from the perspective of Arab countries, Korea is an ideal partner for socio-economic development. Korea achieved a democratic economic miracle, but on top of it, effective governance was established in Korea, which can be kind of a reference case for Arab nations. Also, recently, this January, we had a summit meeting between the two sides. Unlike the past, we didn't really much talk about the infrastructure energy. Rather, we talked about the renewable energy, digital technology, hydrogen, ammonia, EVs, and defense, aerospaces, and desalination, which means you desalinate the sea, ocean, water, and also cooperation in agricultural areas. So this kind of new areas of cooperation are being discovered one after another. Also, like I said before, because of the instability of the global supply chain, Korea and Arab nations both are working together very much because their dependency on foreign import is quite high. So they are trying to share the research outcome or doing some joint research. This kind of cooperation is very promising, I believe. Also, by using the resources of Arab, indoor vegetable factories can be developed. I do believe that they already have technologies, but large-scale factory demonstration project is not very much possible because of the acceptance issue and the land availability issue. In case of indoor vegetable factory, if we demonstrate this kind of program in the desert area in the Arab region, I think we'll be able to produce win-win outcome. When I was ambassador to Kuwait, I really focused on the agricultural dialogue between the two sides. On top of it, in the past, Korea not only focused on the economic aspect with Arab nations, but now we are start to talk about peacekeeping cooperation or military cooperation as well. In Lebanon, from 2007, Dongmyeong unit operated for peacekeeping activities, and also in Iraq between 2004 and 2008, Zaitun division did operation. Also in South Sudan, there is Hanbit unit, and Chang'e naval unit is in the Gulf of Aden since 2009 to fight piracies and to secure the safety in the maritime region. Also in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, high-ranking military officers and the envoy officers made a multiple visit. Also, Korea has been very active in terms of providing humanitarian assistance to Iraq, Syria, Yemen, and Palestine, and Korea intends to maintain this kind of humanitarian assistance. Also, it supported refugee camps in Lebanon and Jordan. I think some of the questions have been already covered in the previous presentation regarding the new challenges, geopolitical challenges, and these development unfold in Miss Asia has implication on South Korea as well, because we are seeing the same issues on the Korean Peninsula, rise of the China and the isolation tactic of the U.S. and following no one supports you at all mentality of the neighboring countries. This kind of trends are evident in this region. So this can be seen as an opportunity, but also a risk that requires South Korea to take another path. Unlike the past, as you know, last August, Kabul's fall in August shocked the world, and Korea back then helped 390 Afghanistan refugees back then. We received the refugees from Afghanistan. I was the TFA leader back then to receive the refugees from Afghanistan. Another question is the possibility of detente between Israel and Arab nations. Everyone is very much interested in it. Also, March 27th to 28th, the Negev summit held with Israeli foreign minister. As an outsider, I was very much interested in the discussion contents and what kind of change will be seen after the summit. Also, another noteworthy feature is that I briefly mentioned, but China's march into this region. But interestingly, not just Saudi Arabia, but Iran, Israel, they are kind of competing to each other, but those three nations had a dialogue with China simultaneously for the improvement of the relation. Saudi Arabia is the top oil exporter to China, actually. President Xi Jinping visited Saudi Arabia in 2016, and King Salman visited China in the following year. Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince, also visited China in 2019. And in 2018, President Sabagua visited China as well. These changes are taking place in Arab world, and it tells that not just Arab nation, but Korea need to create a new strategic space. Of course, the existing alliance is quite critical. However, in this unpredictable environment, we need to create additional strategic space and good partners in the Middle East as well. Another thing I need to mention is that since I don't have much time, let me be very concise. I told you that between 2018 up until 2010, young generation in Arab nation became somewhat different than those in the past. In the past, the value of family was very important, but younger population in Arab nations are very, how do I say, individualistic and very much active in using as social network. They are kind of self-expressive very much. Also, online participation culture is evident in Arab nations, so democracy are getting bigger and bigger in Arab nations as well. Also, the participation of women influencer in the Arab nation is quite visible. Ifra Abbatel or Lawan Al-Baseline in Kuwait, Fuja Al-Fahad in Kuwait, and Ami Loco in Saudi Arabia, Asia Al-Faraj in Kuwait are some of the examples of celebrity. I think I wrote down too many Kuwaitan names, but surprisingly, they are delivering very much modern messages on social network. Some are even talk about the taboo issues. Sexual harassment are even discussed on the social network by them. Those are some of the positive examples, but some are somewhat negative. For example, anti-sentiment of anti-foreigners have been seen on the social network, but nonetheless, these messages clearly tells that new changes will be taking place in Arab nations, for sure. Last point I want to mention is that already Arab nations and Korea has been expanding the diplomatic fields, including medical areas and tourist areas, and Korean people have a great interest in the Asian Arab cultures. And those Arab cultures are very much positively introduced to many Korean population, and many scholars in Korea want to know more about the old culture of Arab nations, and the contribution of Arab countries are being understood within the Korean society as well. Nonetheless, the understanding of the Korean population in Arab nations are very shallow. They have very limited image on Arab nations, maybe about the countries with abundant oil resources. So we need to keep doing the cultural exchanges to enhance our understanding. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Hong. It's so regretful that we do not have enough time between Korea and Arab. He has analyzed relations between the two in a comprehensive manner, and he proposed some agendas for the future. So in setting up the directions, I believe your presentation would be very helpful since it was very insightful. We have had 4 presentations, and we have a special discussant today. Ambassador Federico Alberto Cuello Camilo of the Dominican Republic to the ROK is here with us today. And he served as ambassador to Qatar, and he is an expert in the area. So we are going to listen to his opinions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for the generosity in the way you have treated me this afternoon. First by saying that I'm Lebanese, and now that I'm an expert on Arab relations. I think you're extremely generous. In the genetic analysis I performed a few months ago, 6% of my genes are from Arab countries, 5% from the Lebanon, 1% from Egypt. So that makes me in addition, of course, to the strong cultural ties we have in Latin America with the Arab world, which we got through Spain. And as you know, the Arab influence in Spain is very, very strong, 8 centuries of relations, and you can see it especially in the Spanish language. Now, in my particular case, my experience in the Arab countries has been extremely fruitful. Wherever I have been hosted by the most generous and warm hosts. I've been twice in Morocco at the conclusion of the Uruguay round in 1994, and then the organization of UNCTAD 9 in 1999 in Morocco. In Tunis, we launched the working group on tourism, which led to negotiations on tourism in the World Trade Organization. All of this during my time as ambassador in Geneva. In Doha, we launched the Doha round, and 20 years after that, I served as ambassador of the Dominican Republic in Qatar. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw how Doha had changed so much in barely 20 years. And last but not least, I've been in Egypt seeking to accelerate the Millennium Development Goals. In all of these places, the warmth, the generosity has been unparalleled. And this is something I treasure. I think the one lesson I take from all the presenters is the strong emphasis on peace and security that is there in the relationship with Korea, how initially this emphasis was expressed working on infrastructure, on energy projects, on agriculture, and is now moving into more visionary areas, the digital transformation, the energy transition, security, and of course taking into account the many demographic changes that the ambassador just shared. By the way, Ambassador, I apologize to you for having to storm out halfway through your presentation. There was a domestic situation that required my intervention, and fortunately it was all settled effectively. The other element I would like to mention of my very unforgettable experience in Qatar was to see firsthand how Qatar demonstrated resilience, first to a regional boycott and then to the pandemic. On both of these challenges were met with decisive responses in a successful way, leading to growth and development, to equality of opportunity, and to not leaving anyone behind, which is essentially what's there in the Sustainable Development Goals. I think the new partnership that we are seeking to build with Korea, all of us, not only the Arab countries, should have as its cornerstone the Sustainable Development Goals, because all of the answers we need are there. We have problems with water. We know on the basis of the SDGs what we need to know about water. We have problems with the energy transition. It's all there. We have problems with infrastructure and transportation. It's all there. We have problems with the partnership and defense. I think this is the most enduring legacy of that great Korean, Ban Ki-moon, when as a Secretary General, he was instrumental in conveying this consensus solution for the future. I think reconciling the implementation of SDGs with this new role that Korea is seeking to play as a global pivotal state in the quest for economic security provides many of the answers we're seeking as we try to build together this joint cooperation on the energy transition, this joint cooperation on decarbonization, and something emphasized strongly by the Ambassador of Egypt, this need to be very careful with the safety net that is required for poverty eradication and for all those displaced. These are all areas in which Korea leads, and that Korea has been very generous providing cooperation to all of us who need it. With that, I think I have spoken too much. It's important to leave some more time for questions and answers. I thank you very much, and I cannot conclude without thanking Professor and Ambassador Ma for the generous invitation to be here today. I'm the only ambassador of a Latin American country here for the Jeju Forum, and without your support, this would have not been possible. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
We have heard a lot of good opinions and insights, but we should have had Q&A sessions, but The dinner organized by Minister of Foreign Affairs is waiting for us. So I hope Ambassador Federico Alberto Cuello could make another opportunity so that we can share insights again together later on. So with this, we'd like to wrap up the session. Thank you very much, all the speakers, for your presentation. Over the last 2 decades, more than 1 million Korean people worked really hard in Arab and Middle Eastern countries. And with that, we were able to see the first boom in Middle East, and which laid the foundation for our economic development. It's been 50 years since then. From labor-intensive ones, we are now moving toward technology-intensive one, and focusing on our IT capabilities and manufacturing capabilities. We are now preparing for the second boom in the Middle East for the next decade. Based on what we have learned over the last years, over many years, so in construction of smart cities or national defense industry, alternative energy, agriculture technologies, and bio and medical areas, AI, hydrogen industry, in these areas, a lot of opportunities for cooperation will be available, and I believe we will be able to make feasible results. But economic cooperation relations should be maintained as sustainable. To that end, we need to have reciprocal understanding based on firm infrastructure. So we have a good cooperative relationship, even though we have not known each other well. But some images regarding Arab is a bit negative rather than positive in Korea as well. And as an economic partner, Korea needs Arab, but we do not have a specific ideas and precise ideas of who Arab is. And of course, Arab countries like us because of our culture, but Arab countries also do not have enough and deep understanding of Korea. For the next decade, for us to be partners, and with our experiences that we have accumulated, if we want to go further, and as a person majoring in humanitarian history, so with Korea, Arab society, academia, media should create a committee as one, so that we need to think about how to promote mutual understandings, so that later on we should be able to make our relationship and cooperation sustainable. This is what we need to consider going forward in the future. In that regard, directions and suggestions made by all the ambassadors, we need to add more to your opinions. And as the previous speaker mentioned before, culturally, economically, and emotionally, we should be able to create a partnership. And I'd like to thank all of you for your participation. Thank you very much.